Welcome to Genesis Global Radio, the origin of information. And now here's your host, Christine Larkin.
Hello and thank you for tuning in to Genesis Global Radio, the origin of information. I'm Christine Larkin. On today's segment, we'll be speaking with President and CEO of Info Impact, Larry English. Larry will be sharing his thoughts about the evolution and growth of the new paradigm of information management and its ramifications for society and the changing paradigm. It's my pleasure to welcome Larry English to our show today. Larry, it's great to have you here with us.
Well, thank you, Christine. It's a pleasure for me to be here with you.
So looking forward to you sharing all your information. So, for starters, as the world has been formed, it's had to develop processes of growth in the universe and for living life. There must be a goal, a purpose, a deeming principle. Larry, can you elaborate on this for us?
Yes, the whole notion of the world is that we have a single entity, and we have to manage that single entity with the variations of wildlife and nature, and we have to manage and be sure that those who understand the inner workings and the networking and the relationships among the various resources of the world that have to come together and become part of a greater plan that is required to prevent this society currently as it exists to create the processes that will enable us to build and understand and create the environments that are needed to sustain life on the planet. And in the same way, we have in our information systems, we have the same types of management problems and processes that we need to manage effectively for the long-range plan. Our scientists have been working hard to create that major aim of the big picture of managing both scientific processes, manufacturing processes, and other processes that are required to connect together to make positive improvements to the processes that feed the world and feed both the complex processes and the more simplified processes. And as we study those processes and turn and apply those to counterpart processes that are needed to enable effective engineering, developing the algorithms and the formulas that enable people to manage and provide for the global environment.
So what I'm gathering here is that what you're saying, if I might interpret it a little bit for my understanding and those listening, in that all of the processes with engineering and science and preparedness, that there is a streamline of availability and access of information for all people. It seems now it's kind of separate. Scientists work in their own realm, inventors in their realm, information specialists in their realm. So are you talking about access across the board so that we all can foresee things coming and be more prepared or more aware?
Well, we have to bring people together to help them identify what the problems are, the significant problems that can cause catastrophe, or we can move in the other direction and look for the solutions that will enable us to contain.
Well, Larry, let me interrupt here for a moment. Let's take the recent storm in the Northeast, Hurricane Sandy, an enormous superstorm. It kind of hit around Halloween, so they kind of gave it a fun name, Frankenstorm. What do you think could have been done differently? I mean, we've got local news, we've got all kinds of information coming out over the airwaves to warn people to evacuate for preparedness. There were people who decided to stay. Could we have informed them even on a deeper level of the danger that really was looming, and then in that maybe they would have really left? So is that what we're talking about? Maybe letting them know about how the ecosystem was going to be impacted, the roads, the tides, their home, the fear of fire. It almost seemed to me that there was enough information that would scare people enough, but maybe should we have gone deeper so that less people would have been harmed or affected?
Yeah, well, it's the size of this was quite a surprise magnitude, and I don't think we've seen anything nearly like that. Right.
Now, there are skeptics, and certainly the future of today's world is you could say it's being corrupted by skeptics, and maybe there were a lot of people that were very skeptical. Scientists are trying to solve problems and the dynamics of the complex formulas that can constrain and possibly corrupt the global ecosystem, and maybe the public, really isn't so aware of that, and then become skeptical. So where is the conflict between scientists and skeptics, even, with a storm like this?
Well, the communications were the dynamics of the communications that were needed for the awareness of the potential for the magnitude of the magnitude was so significant, and we had minimal time to really pull together all of the relationships that are needed to send out communications and to provide guidelines for how to address the problems and the preparedness of that, and even as it were, the structures that were built at that time era, and the waves coming in on the beach, and the houses and the buildings were not sufficiently strong to keep from failing.
So if we had more preparedness, more time, maybe building dunes larger, maybe in the future not allowing oceanfront property to be rebuilt. I mean, I do know that some of the homes that were severely impacted, they're not allowed to rebuild, and a lot of them didn't have flood insurance. They just simply don't provide it. So maybe that's further along the information grid, is that, look, we can't build within, 1,000, 2,000 feet from the ocean. Is that what we're talking about? More awareness of how a storm like that can impact oceanfront property? Yeah. We learned a lot from this. So what would you say are some of the major problems of the world today? Having this conversation and taking from what we've just talked about And where would we begin to solve them effectively?
Well, we have to develop some communication guidelines, round up people who are significantly aware of the environmental problems, that if we don't solve those environmental problems, the world will continue to erode, and we can't let it go without having some catastrophic problems.
That's a very interesting point, because it almost seems like we're kind of sitting ducks. You know, there are things that are going on behind the scenes, so to speak, which is sort of what you're saying, is like bring that information to the forefront, maybe even take greater steps to ensuring coastal property and beachfronts and barrier beaches. Places like New Orleans, you know, got hit very bad in Katrina, you know, making sure that those areas are protected, or, you know, don't build on areas that are so vulnerable anymore. I mean, I think, right, you know, that's kind of like a smarter awareness right there. So, you know, that effective communication, are we talking about building a platform of information that doesn't currently exist, that maybe links all of the, you know, the people that are in industry and architecture and the Corps of Engineers, and linking that all together?
Right.
That's quite an undertaking, huh? It
is. I mean, my son is in environmental engineering, and he has his master's degree in the program, and he's working especially with water, and water is one of the most important.
So many of our coasts, we've water everywhere, and there's so much building that's very close to the water. Yeah. Well, you know, everybody listening today, you can go on and get some more information. Read about Larry English at infoimpact.com. That's INFOIMPACT.com, infoimpact.com. You can email him at larry.english@infoimpact.com. The phone number, 1-615-837-1211. Larry, I want to really thank you for this. It's very timely and very, very important.
Well, thank you, Christine.
For upcoming segments, log on to www.genesisglobalmedia.com and keep your finger on the pulse of the hottest brands on the planet. Welcome and thank you for listening to Genesis Global Media Talk Radio. Genesis Global Media is an advertising agency and so much more. We put you on the map. That's right, Genesis Global Media is a branding machine. If you have a story to tell, we get the word out there. Radio shows nationally, television shows nationally, print, internet, search engine optimization, social media, you name it, we do it all. Our in-house staff provides you with everything you need from concept to finished product. Our state-of-the-art 10,000 square foot video production facility is out of this world. During these tough economic times, most ad agencies have closed their doors. Our doors just keep opening, with 10 new clients coming on board weekly. Stop on by our website at www.genesisglobalmedia.com or call us at 631-419-7344. If you have a business, a product, or need to get messaging out there to millions of people, we're your solution. Stop on by our website at genesisglobalmedia.com or call us at 631-419-7344. Are you looking for employment and live in Los Angeles, Orange, Riverside, and San Bernardino counties? Jobs Annex is the place for you. Are you an employer looking to fill a position or quite a few positions in Los Angeles, Orange, Riverside, and San Bernardino counties? Jobs Annex is for you. Employers, JobsAnnex.com is your resource for career-minded people. JobsAnnex.com is the convenient place for job seekers and employers to hook up and move forward. Jobs Annex has been serving Los Angeles, Orange, Riverside, and San Bernardino counties for over 14 years. Jobs Annex is a former employment search firm. We've evaluated many thousands of resumes, and we understand what employers want and what job applicants need to be successful in their interviews. At Jobs Annex, we provide you with the tools to tell your story for free. Our resources at JobsAnnex.com will help each applicant construct an award-winning resume, an eye-catching cover letter, and key interview questions to ask in various types of interviews. Best of all, it's free. JobsAnnex.com. That's JobsAnnex.com. Welcome to Genesis Global Radio, the origin of information. And now here's your host, Christine Larkin.
Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Genesis Global Radio, the origin of information. I'm Christine Larkin. On today's segment, we're going to be speaking again with President and CEO of Info Impact, Larry English. Larry will be sharing his thoughts about the evolution and growth of the new paradigm of information management and its ramifications for society and the changing paradigm. It's my pleasure to welcome back Larry English to our show today. Larry, thank you for joining me again.
Oh, well, thank you, Christine. I'm delighted to be here.
Well, we had a great segment talking about linking all that information for better preparedness and awareness. And you know, certainly we saw in the recent severe storm in the Northeast, Sandy, that, you know, we need more time, maybe more preparedness to ward off major catastrophe. And with information, I think we can do that, you know, in the coming future. So let's talk about non-renewable resources that could have been, you know, could be wiped out in an event like this, a catastrophic event, an act of God, as they call, you know, a nature event. As I said, you know, we had this major Frankenstorm, as they coined it, because it hit around the Halloween, I think it was October 29th. And you know, funny, I saw kids trick-or-treating like a week later, which I think was pretty cool. They even postponed Halloween. But, you know, it wiped out dunes, and it wiped out very, very important barrier beaches to the mainland along the Northeast. You've got parts of Long Island, you know, Fire Island that acts as a barrier beach. And then going south, you have New Jersey and the barrier beaches there with Long Beach. And then as you go down, Cape Hatteras, you know, all the beaches that really protect the mainland. Would we call this a renewable resource? And how could we have better prepared? Should we have built larger dunes? Tell us about that.
Well, one of the first things that we need to do is to document all of the types of problems that have to be solved, and to identify the people who have access to intelligence that can be used to be applied to information, and that includes things like early warning signs,
Mm-hmm.
and as you said earlier in the previous segment, and those can be put together in an organized way if we can bring together the right people with the right tools.
Mm-hmm.
And when we are able to get those tools in place and create the dissemination mechanism for getting information on the problems, those critical problems,
Right.
to be able to solve them on a timely basis.
Now, describe what that would look like. Are we talking about a website that people go to? I mean, you can go on Google and search almost anything, any kind of information. What kind of physical thing are we talking about, where people can access all of that information and ideas to be more prepared?
Mm-hmm. Right, and to put together the processes and the.
Okay, so it's more process. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there have to be processes, and most of the processes that we have that are associated with the geophysical world,
Mm-hmm.
and that area of knowledge of what kind of depth is sufficiently for drilling oil, for example.
Right.
And those would be things that as we bring people together and get them moving to develop the tools that are necessary.
Well, for example, you're saying the way I'm envisioning it, let's create a sort of a mental vision of what this information tank might be like, or a process. In other words, are you saying it? So we're taking in political, we're taking in federal, local, state. Are you talking about merging all of those processes into one process?
Not necessarily.
Okay. So break that down then a little bit more.
Right. So we have varieties of processes, all the way through all of our systems that we have in place. And we can take advantage of those systems if they are understandable to the people who are aware of the problems that they're facing.
Okay.
So that they can have a commitment to making some sacrifices in the form of problems that we have to take care of. And as we do, it can be more complex with more people and more tools and processes that are being defined and designed. And we have to put them together in a way that will create a positive change to slow the waves in the oceans.
Ah, you've just hit on something very interesting. All right. So you're literally talking about changing the way, let's say, a major storm or act of God event can affect even the tides and the weather. So you think that through that information and availability to process, we can actually slow that all down and minimize its impact?
Well, it's probably, it's going to be a long time that we'll have enough power that will be being used while we're making the transition from the already known capabilities, and then translating those into the capabilities for then turning around to design the major mechanisms that can start slowing the global warming problems and the other environmental problems that we have in the oceans, in the mountains, and all of the places where significant problems are going to be seen. And we've got to prioritize those, understand them, figure out what mechanisms we have to put in place to create the processes to improve the environment.
Yeah. Well, after this, I keep referring to the storm in the Northeast because that's where I live. That's where our show is coming from. And it's really was, it affected a lot of, it was a global impact. Let's face it. When there's a natural disaster anywhere in the world, it affects the world because it affects trade, it affects commerce, it affects politics. People start talking differently. It's what we're doing now. And I read something that a lot of the barrier beaches along Long Island, there were breakthroughs, and they were talking about possibly building maybe a levee, or you'd probably know the term better than I, but to really protect even the barrier beaches from those large waves coming in. So absolutely, the dialogue has already begun, Larry, and it's very necessary because there are parts of the world that are so vulnerable to this kind of thing, and it needs to be addressed sooner than later because there are more natural disasters. Like you said, you mentioned, mountain ranges, and it makes me think of the Grand Canyon. You've got the Big Hoover Dam out there, something like that is going to protect the further erosion. So it's very important dialogue. And where do we begin to develop this? I mean, it's probably in the back of a lot of leaders' minds, but how can everybody kind of come together and start to get this going?
Yeah. Well, we have to make the case for the fact that we've got to make major changes in how we manage all of the resources of the world,
mm-hmm.
and to exploit those and not let them go to waste. And because we have to use the resources that we have to create the systems that we can use to block where we have things that include following where the gaps are.
Mm-hmm. So, Larry, let me ask you this. Are we talking about developing a new global organization? You've got things like UNICEF and World Hunger Organizations. Is it sort of in that genre?
Well, it's sort of the opposite.
Oh, really?
Yeah. When you're thinking about third world environments,
mm-hmm.
and the environmental issues there, we have to create and have the processes available where people require them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then once you get a notion and you study that notion and you see that there are, from the various world, the organizations
mm-hmm.
have to seek to join, and that, of course, the leaders of all enterprises
right.
have to be involved because they have the access to
That's right.
people and the knowledge mm-hmm. that they can put to work.
Right. Yeah, excellent point. All right, everybody who's listening today, if you want more information, infoimpact.com. This is a really great site, infoimpact.com. Give them a call, 1-615-837-1211, or drop them an email, larry.english@infoimpact.com. Larry, that winds it down for this segment. I want to thank you again, and I hope you'll come back and share more ideas with us.
Well, thank you. I look forward to that, and I'd be delighted to.
For upcoming segments, log on to www.genesisglobalmedia.com and keep your finger on the pulse of the hottest brands on the planet.